Hello and welcome back to Resolutionary Leaders Podcast. Today we have Q Wilcox, who himself is a resolutionary leader. He is a military man and father of two children with one on the way, which is always so exciting. You're bringing another little human being into the world. And we have some really fun, I don't know if I call them fun, but some great stories to discuss today. So welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I remember when we first spoke and I was like, man, I can't wait to go on the show because we talked a whole lot. And I think we talked like 45 minutes. You're like, I got to go. I got another person I got to meet. But it was awesome when we first spoke. So I'm looking forward to this conversation as well.
Yeah. And I was like, stop. Oh, God, no, we've got too many nuggets. I'm going to have to repeat yourself. And then Q has a podcast called Mediocre Dads, which I kind of love. I love it. His thing is that you choose to be a mediocre dad, and it's a choice you've got to make not to be every single day. Me, I took it as, you know what, it's okay to be mediocre. Parenting is hard. We're doing our best. At the end of the day, our kids are probably going to think we were mediocre.
Yeah.
Even though we really are trying not to be. Okay, so let's start with a workplace conflict situation, because I know you worked in a very toxic work environment, one of your first stations, first whatever you call it.
Yeah, it was first duty station. Yeah, no, you got it right. You got it right. So yeah, so man, and it's funny because I feel like for me, feels like such a long time ago, but it was in 2014. So I joined the Army in 2013, but I got to my first duty station, which was at the time called Fort Hood. It's now Fort Cavazos in 2014. And I had this senior leader that I worked under who he was hard to get along with, but I just took this up as this was just the Army. You know what I mean? You join the military. No one said it was going to be easy. No one said it was going to be like this thing that it's going to be like rainbows and butterflies and everyone's skipping around. I understood it going in there. There's going to be some hard times or difficult times that I'm supposed to ride or get through, and whatever the case might be. So this individual in particular, though, they were just I would just sum it up to be an evil person to begin with. The very first interaction I had with this individual was this is week 2, I think, at the unit. And so I'm just doing my thing. And for anyone who's been in the military, they know when you come from basic training AIT, you show up and you have basically like a damn near bald haircut. So there's nothing else left to go with your hair except you're basically bald. And he walks in and the atmosphere immediately changes. So that was my first cue, right? That was my first cue about this individual. But the atmosphere immediately changed when he walked in. Everybody went from laughing, joking to no one is talking to each other. No one wanted to look at each other. It was just, we're all in our own. It was almost like every man or woman for themselves. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me unless you absolutely have to talk to me. And if you do, you better not say anything stupid. And that was literally the atmosphere in which when he walked in the door, and no one anticipated him coming in. And so he comes in and he walks straight for me, beelines it for me. And the guy I'm working with, he like nudges my shoulder. He's like, stand up, stand up. I'm like, oh, okay. So we stand up, go to parade rest, custom and courtesies in the military as we do. And he just stares at me. Like he doesn't say hello. It doesn't say anything. I say, good morning, good morning, Master Sergeant. Private Wilcox, nice to meet you. Doesn't say anything to me, just staring at me with just this look of just, why do I exist? And I'm thinking like, okay, this is me. It's someone I need to win over. Wrong thought process to have in that moment and of with this individual, because he just continues to stare at me and he says to me, he says, you have, I forgot the time, but he goes, you need a haircut. You need to go get a haircut. Time now. And if you come back here without a haircut, he goes, you will no longer work here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got here. I don't want this to happen. So I'm like, okay, Roger that, Master Sergeant. In my head, though, I'm thinking I basically have a bald head. I don't understand. He's bald himself. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, we basically have the same haircut right now. I just have lines in my head and you don't. So I just don't understand like how the thought process of, hey, you need a haircut. And so I'm like, okay, I wrote that. He turns around, walks away. Again, I said hello, not a single thing. Only thing he cared about was the haircut. I sit back down with the guy that I'm working with who's showing me the ropes, and this other leader walks over to me and she goes, "What the hell are you doing?" I was like, continuing back to work. I said, she goes, "Weren't you told just to go get an effing haircut?" I was like, "Roger, Sergeant." I said, "But it's 10:30 in the morning. We're supposed to be working. I figured he wanted me to do this on my own time, not on his time." And she was like, get the hell out of this office. So I grabbed my stuff and I basically just run out of the office. Oh, I guess I'm going to go get a haircut right now. Like, and so I go get a haircut, come back. And he just, again, he walks up to me and he stares at me and he goes, don't ever show back up to this office without a haircut. But keep in mind, so the lady who cut my hair, I sit in the chair and she goes, what can I do for you? And she goes, I don't mean that as a, hey, like I'm a barber and this is what I'm going to ask, what I ask everybody. She goes, I genuinely want to understand why you're sitting in my chair about to pay me $12 to $15 for a haircut when you already clearly have a haircut right now. Like I can't go any shorter than what you have right now. So I need to understand what it is you would like to do for me. It is you would like me to do for you. And I was like, can you just cut it down, I guess, as much as possible without going and making me bald? And she was like, sure. Yeah, I can do that. So I spent like less than 10 minutes in that lady's chair, paid her $15, go back to the office. And I think nothing changed with my hair. But it
Right.
was just a simple fact of like he had the authority that he could do that and he felt he could do that and he did it, you know. Um, that was my very first interaction with that dude. The very first one. So it set the tone for everything.
How long did you stay in that role?
I was there for from 14 to 2000 to from 2014 to 2017, but within that time I went to Afghanistan and whatnot. But he was there from 13 till end of 15. So he left towards the end of 2015. So I had that time, we had all that time to deal with him. And that was just like that was my first interaction with him, but there were so many other things that occurred from within that entire team that he caused. And it was just I didn't know what I was getting myself into when people were like, "Hey, you should have just requested to leave this office when he told you you could leave because now you're stuck here and you don't understand what it's like to work here." And I was like, no, it's all good. It should be fine. And they're like, no, you should have left when you had the chance. And I was like, oh, crap.
So just tell me how you navigated that for the 2 years that he was there, you and the team, and how I've been in a toxic work environment and it really impacted me quite quickly. Being treated like that just really is gaslighting
Yeah,
what he did. And so you don't know when the next shoe's going to drop, or how did you work your way through that?
man, I honestly, I don't even know. Like I was too young to drink, so I didn't do that. I
I
just,
couldn't drink my way through it.
yeah,
Get it.
I know it's as crazy as it sounds. Yeah, I couldn't drink my way through that situation. Honestly, it was a lot of just walking on eggshells and just assuming that this is what kind of the military was supposed to be. And just
Mm,
so being new when you don't know any better, that's just like you just go in there and you think, okay, I guess this is what it is. But then as it's going on, you really start to begin to realize like, okay, I'm getting out after this because I could only handle so much of this before it's just I do something reckless and I punch him in the mouth one day because I'm just like, hey, I'm fed up. Like I'm tired of you, just of all the nonsense. And I just went through every single day as one day at a time
mm.
and just was gritting my way through it because there was nothing I could do. Just knowing that he was in charge, everyone, and it was not just me, it was everyone. Everyone knew who this individual was. There was not a person. It's a brigade size element. I worked at brigade, which is I don't know how to put it in more civilian style terms, but just to put it plainly, there was 4,000 over 4,000 people within that brigade, right? And nine, that's maybe too much of a number. Let's say 75% of the people within that organization and that brigade knew who this individual was. 75%. And not out of, oh, he's a hard worker or like he's an E8 who's about to make E9. And no, it was everyone knew, hey, that individual will make your life a living hell for anytime he's around, anytime he's there. Just know, be on your P's and Q's because he will make your life a living hell, and it will all seem for no reason, just because he can.
And there is no way of holding someone in that position accountable.
That's the crazy. So there is, right? And there were several. There's this in the military. We have it's called equal opportunity (EO). I'm sure the civilian side sector has something similar. And there's so many categories, and some of the things that fall in this category is a toxic work environment, right?
Mhm.
And however, the military has a definition for what a toxic work environment is. But this individual in particular, what he was good at was he was great at being chameleon. This to the people at his level and above, man, they thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But anyone who was inferior to him, oh, you knew you were inferior to him, and you knew why, because he would always remind you. And you just be like, hey, I don't know understand how no one else sees this as an issue and commends this guy. But then the rest of us are just sitting here, just like, please, oh my gosh, what is it that we've done that led you to do these things? Because we didn't do anything wrong, and if we did something wrong, oh my gosh, you never wanted to be
Mhm.
if you did something wrong, it almost felt like you had a better opportunity of going AWOL, absent without leave, than going to report to him and acknowledging what you did, because it was terrible. It was just strictly terrible. So
I find that such a common theme that these managers who are just horrible are really good at managing up. It's just they're really good at managing and their profile and the narrative around themselves and getting promoted and meanwhile just like dropping bodies behind them.
yeah, I say this, I have a saying for in the military, and this is me, this is Quan speaking. When I say this is not by no means the actual representation of the military. This is just my experience thus far, and we fail upwards. I have seen so many people who have been who clearly are not the example or do not need to be in the position that they're in.
Mhm.
But they are, and they are completely toxic, and they make it a living hell to work with them. And instead of the system having these things in place to prevent these people from succeeding, if you will, or going up further up the ladder, it is almost is inverse. It's they are playing the game well, and they're playing the game better than you are, and they're succeeding, and they're going up, and so instead of going down, they're just going upwards and upwards. And by the time it gets to the point where these individuals are people recognize, hey, this individual is not a good individual. How did they make it here? You realize, oh, it was recognized. People just refuse to do anything about it. And so now they're at the position where you can't fire them. They got 20 plus years in the military. Can't fire them. They're the highest ranking as far as the enlisted side goes. You just grit your teeth and you just say, it is what it is. Can't wait for this person to retire.
Wow. Is it, would you say that people get moved around? If let's say you're a problem, you just get moved,
Oh yeah.
and that's
We
why they move up as they move around?
Yeah, people don't like acknowledging that they have a problem, right? So here's my thing and I'll go broad and then I'll bring it back in particular to your question. So we don't teach people in the military how to actually manage people, right?
Mm,
We teach in the military, what we teach is how to manage numbers. And hey, everyone is a number and has a number. And as long as they can that number can benefit the greater good or help accomplish the mission, great. However, that's going to fail you, because when you want someone to have a purpose or have the drive to do something out of sheer just initiative and purpose and motivation, it's never going to be there, because you're always treating them like a number.
mm,
And so in the military, where I think we have failed in that leadership sphere is, if you will, is not actually teaching people how to manage people.
mhm,
So one of my things is, okay, why don't we say, hey, if I'm going to put this person in a leadership role, and the military has all this training that they put us through, why not say, hey, I need to put my people through. If you're a leader, you're going to go through a shortened project manager or a managerial course, if you will, to show you how to manage people, with whether emotionally and understanding emotional intelligence, understanding conflict, understanding resilience, understanding just a whole plethora of different things that you can put these leaders through. So when they are put in those leadership roles, they understand their job and how to manage people on the job aspect, but they also understand how to manage people on when it comes to personal issues, right? Because ultimately, one of the biggest things that we run into is biggest thing in the military is accountability. But soldiers have so many if they have too many personal issues going on and we can't help them solve them, then their accountability comes up for question. And now they're no longer a force multiplier. They're now someone they have to sit on the bench, and we have to wait or help them navigate through the personal issues before we can send them, whether it's to deploy, whether it's to support another mission, or do this, do that, whatever the case might be. So this ultimately brings me back to my smaller point, right? People understanding that it might take some work to actually train leaders and to actually understand what it looks like to take care of soldiers. However, no one's willing to go through that take that extra step to say, hey, how do I manage people? Because why go through it if no one else has to do it? And then two, if I have a problem soldier, I have a problem, someone who's just toxic or just causing too many issues within the office, and I don't want to deal with it because my boss is breathing down my neck because I got 15 other things I got to do. Well, how easy is it for me just to send this person somewhere else and make him someone else's problem? And hopefully either they'll listen to that person and they will change, or they'll just get out, or whatever the case might be. But 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. Everybody thinks they're the new coming of Jesus as far as leadership goes. And they're like, I got a new soldier. I told you he's a problem soldier. So I'm going to take him on, or take her on. And I'm going to show them what real leadership looks like, as if the previous leader was just a scumbag and didn't try all the things that you tried.
Oh, I think you just
And it just ends up these individuals get promoted and promoted. And next thing you know, they're in charge. Sorry. And they're in charge of other soldiers. And then you're just like, can't stop them now. Can't stop the trajectory. They're just going to go up and up.
What I'm thinking is how the whole structure of the military is such an old, is it command and control? It's the old style of leadership of the leader tells everybody what to do and everybody executes. And I think the new leadership model is about creating an environment for people to thrive and for them to be the subject matter experts. And they're the ones that show up and they're telling the leader, they're giving their input because they know more than the leader about a lot of these things. And so it seems very difficult or impossible to create that kind of environment if you've got leaders who are just command and control.
So I will say, and this might sound as if I'm contradicting myself, but that's not my intent here. Here's what I will say, and why and how the military is different in so many of those aspects, right? Because while I understand we want to create these environments in which people can thrive and grow and go and be successful, whether in their craft, in whatever the case might be, we cannot forget, or at least I say we, but I and us in the military cannot forget what the purpose of the military is. And so there are aspects of the military that have been forgotten or shoved away because we're no longer in a conflict era, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the people who are more command and control, as you mentioned, are those who have been in some form of a conflict before, or been in an environment where there's constant conflict, and understand the ramifications of failing or not accomplishing the mission. But that means people's lives. Whereas the soldiers now, since over the last, I would say 3 to 4 years, maybe even 5, don't understand the idea of conflict or the idea of people dying if you fail to do a simple task. And even right now, for myself, I am the type of so I learned so many things from that individual, and there are some of our bad habits that I subconsciously gained and that I worked through on my own accord to try to change that. But there are also things that I learned from that individual that I understood, that now as a leader, I understand why he did what he did, right? Where it was, these are people's lives. I've been in Afghanistan. And so we lost one person from our unit. But while I was there were several people that passed. And the guy that we lost from our unit, I knew him. I knew his family, went to the same church. He had 4 kids, just had his 4th kid, was like 6 months old. And then we deploy, and in month 3 or 4, we're out there, and an Afghan dressed as an Afghan soldier comes to the gate that he just happens to be dropping off some logistical support stuff to at the gate to the other soldiers there. And this guy, Afghani pretending to be an Afghan soldier, just starts spraying and praying this entire gate. hits him, immediately kills him, immediately kills another contractor, severely injures another contractor, severely injured another soldier, and whatnot. And this and that. And it was a wrap. It was over for that guy. And it sucks because I knew that individual. I met him before we deployed at church, talked about going, looking forward to finally deploying because when you join the military, it's like the badge of honor of saying, I've really joined the military. And to deploy to a combat zone, of course, you want to understand the dangers, but you never really realize it's something like something's going to happen until it happens.
Mhm.
And in that moment, you are grateful for the amount of times you trained in this said thing or said event because you don't know you don't know how you're going to respond, right? You think we know how we're going to respond in adversity, right? But we really don't know how we're going to respond. And in that moment, you're thankful that you've been trained repeatedly to the point where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is nauseating how much time we train, how much effort we put in this. But then you start to realize, oh, if I didn't have this training, if it wasn't burnt into my head of how to react and respond when this thing or that thing happens, it could cost me or other people's lives. And in that instance, there were people who were trained combat lifesavers, is what we call them, who provided immediate aid to help, and they helped save those contractors or save the contractor and the soldier that was severely injured and get them out in whatever the case might be and eliminate the threat and save those people's lives with those life-saving skills that they were taught and trained. And so I understand, and now I appreciate some of the things he drilled into my head was, you guys are not taking this seriously. And that was ultimately the problem, the role that I played in this, that we weren't taking it seriously. We were just taking this as, I got to do this thing. And then once I do this thing, I've done it. Great, cool. It's not my life that it's impacting. It is what it is. And we weren't taking it seriously. We didn't understand the value of life. And so
Mm.
now, even with my soldiers now that I have, I'm one of two leaders who've ever deployed to a combat zone. And so when I'm hard on them, I'm hard on them because I care, because I understand like the threats around the world right now things are heating up. And if we have to go back to conflict, to combat,
Mm.
I don't want to see them come back in body bags. And I take it so seriously where I'm like, hey, it may seem like I'm hard on you and I don't like you. Do not ever think I don't like you. Right. My personal feelings of you don't actually matter. What matters is I care about you being able to be effective and be able to come back home alive. That's what I care about. And that might be wrong of me not to care about their feelings and emotions and all these things around. But ultimately, when we're dealing with life in this regards, especially in the military and how easily it could be lost, I'm like, we don't have the luxury of time to just lollygag around and think that there are no consequences to what we do.
It's so fascinating. I love that you shared all that. And right at the top, you're like, in the last 3 or 4 years, these guys don't know this new generation. And that is something that I'm hearing a lot from a lot of leaders. And I think that the last 3 or 4 years have dramatically changed people. People are, they are more sensitive. And it's been a really challenging, bizarre time that we've all gone through. And so it's interesting to hear the impact on the military because, yeah, I'm working with leaders to be like, okay, you do have to care more.
Yeah.
It's really important to care about your people because they want to feel like a human, and people are feeling sensitive and less resilient. However, in your situation, you're like, I care, but not that much because
Yeah.
it's literally life or death. And so you need to suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are so many things in the military that I've done and that I've seen that I'm like, this is pretty stupid. That why are we doing that or doing this to begin with? And so I don't do it or I don't press it as hard with my guys. But I'm not even in a combat MOS or my job is not combat related. I'm military counterintelligence. I'm in an intelligence role. And we're not in a combat MOS. However, that doesn't change the fact that in the beginning of the surge in Iraq and Afghanistan, you had cooks, you had human resources specialists, you had intel analysts, you had whatever whoever being sent out on patrols, being required to do what is expected of even the combat guys, right? Hey, we all would, no matter what, when you join the military, when you join the army, especially, you're a soldier first. Just like the Marines, you're a Marine first. So you're a Marine, for Marines, you're a rifleman first. That's what they call themselves, the rifleman. And so, like, you are first that. Everything else you do is secondary because at any given time, we never know if you're going to be able to do your job or if you're going to be required to be on the front lines protecting the men and women to your left and the right of you,
Hmm.
right? And so for me, that's where that drive comes from, for wanting to say, hey, this is what the ramifications are if we don't take these things seriously. And within my job as military intelligence, if we get it wrong, someone dies. Someone could die. I won't say someone does die. Someone could die.
Hmm.
And so with this generation in particular, what I've noticed, even with COVID, right? COVID, don't get me wrong, COVID messed up a lot of people. And I by no means will I belittle what the mental ramifications of trapping people, if you will, in their homes for that long period of time. I will not belittle that by any means. However, what I will say is this newer generation of individuals is some of them, it's like they've never heard the word no, they've never been told the word no before. It's, hey, you will do A, B, and C. And they're like, but I want to go, but I need to do A, B, and C. I'm like, that's not a priority right now. What I need you to do is this, and go knock it out. And they can't believe that you are telling them that what they want to do is not a priority. And they're like, who are you to tell me? How dare you? I can tell you've never heard an adult tell you the word no.
Mm.
I'm here to tell you the answer is no until you can accomplish this said mission. And it's not coming from me, it's coming from the commander, which her boss is the battalion commander, and so on and so forth. So understand, when these orders come down, they're not coming from Staff Sergeant Queon Wilcox because Queon Wilcox just wants to make everybody life miserable. No, they're coming from up above, and I'm here to disseminate them within my team or among my team. And these newer soldiers now is I won't even dump on the newer soldiers. Here's what I will dump on. The simple what are the problem part of the problem I think is millennials started growing up and they said everything in their life was hard. They're like, my parents were mean, I got spanked, I got this happened, this, all these things that previous generations were like, hey, that's just life. We're coming up and used to. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean everything that they did was right,
Hmm.
but it taught you something. It taught you how to work hard. It taught you how to earn for
Hmm.
what earn your keep, if you will. And it taught you how to be resilient and how to be tough, because you realized when you left your parents, who you thought were the evilest people in the world, that the world was eviler. And you realize that your parents were only preparing you, whether they did a good or bad job at doing that, for preparing you for the world, and preparing you for the realization that I love you here. Here in this home, I love you, and I will do everything I can to take care of you, make sure you have food on the table, make sure there's food on the table, you have a good life here, you have people you care about, whatever the case might be. And we can always come together, hug, make up, and just be a family together. Out there, you're nothing to them. You're another flesh and bones that, if that means trampling you to get to where they want to, they will. And so here, if I'm hard on you here, and it doesn't seem like I love you. That's not the case at all. I'm doing this because I do love you. But now generations come, people are like, oh, my life was so miserable. My parents were the problem. And so now they went to the completely opposite side of the spectrum, where it's like, hey, has this newfound idea of emotional intelligence, whereas now these things have always existed, right? We just weren't so in tune with them back then, where we didn't find a balance. We just went to the completely opposite side. So now everybody's soft, versus, in comparison, people used to just hold in their emotions and not do anything before it exploded and it caused worse situations. So there's no balance. There's no in the middle of, hey, be tough, but be aware of, this is what emotional intelligence is. It's what it is to be emotional. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to have these emotions, experience these emotions, but knowing how to react and respond in those situations, if you're feeling those emotions, especially anger or sadness, is what parents, or what used to be taught. Knowing what it feels like when you're about to get angry or you're overstimulated, and recognizing that and being able to say, I need to remove myself from this situation. That is what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence isn't being able to tell everybody, I have anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism. I have all these things going on in my life. And those are because I have those things, those things are the reason why I am the way I am. Those are the reason why I'm sad. They're the reason why I can't work hard, because I don't know how to work hard, because I have so many things crippling me, holding me back from actually being able to succeed in life. When in reality is, you're the one who put those, don't get me wrong, those things exist, but you put those labels on yourself. And now you told the whole world those labels are the ones that what define you, not what your hard work is and not how you've been able to maneuver having those labels on you.
So I have a son who has ADHD, and I see the world as a lot harder for him. And I think yes, it's harder, right? And that's okay. That's your experience. And I'm constantly, sometimes my middle son is like, oh, you have different standards for me. And I'm like, yeah, because it's easier for you. He's going to get there, but his journey is going to be a little longer. Like you can control that right now. So I expect you to control it. Whereas my other son, it's him experiencing a really strong emotion and being able, and I have to allow him to have it, because he needs to learn how to keep going, because he does have that big emotion. And I can see how it would be easy to, you try to protect them from their big emotions, but because they have these big experiences, my son feels the world differently at just a different level. I have to tolerate him really suffering, and it's hard. But it's hard for you here. Wait till you're out in the world. Like,
Yeah.
you have to get the skill set going. But it's definitely challenging as a parent to be able to just see your kids suffer that much. And I think that we've had this toxic need to have happy children. I just want my kids to be happy all the time. I don't want them to suffer. It's no, you have to suffer. You have to have pain. And I think the balance is the accountability. It's
Yeah.
you love them, what you're saying. It's the same. I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago, and it was so crystal clear that really being a great parent, being a great leader is your ability to really care and really create accountability. Have both those things. With all accountability and no care, it's
Yeah.
create toxic people. And with all care and no accountability, you create toxic people. So
Yeah.
it's those two things.
That's I it's that is the hard part. Don't get me wrong. And I do think there are great people, or there are people out there who are great at being leaders within their sphere or wherever they work. And but it's also being able to recognize, like you said, going home every day. And I have to do this myself as I'm driving home, looking in the mirror saying, okay, where did I fail today? Where did I succeed? Okay. What could I have handled that situation better? Absolutely. And how could I have handled it? Okay. How do I approach this? Okay. I'm recognizing I can read that person's body language. I can read they're clearly upset, whatever. And based off of what I said, how did I say it? Why did I say it? And did I control my reaction to what they did or said? Or did I allow my emotions to get out of control and just say, well, you have to listen to me anyway because I'm in charge? Being able to find that balance and that happy medium, if you will, it is a difficult thing to do, especially within the military. And I imagine in any other workplace, but it is possible. And I will speak to, you mentioned your son having ADHD. So I have ADHD. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 28 years old. Now I knew it, I had it essentially my entire life. However, it was one of those things where I was like, I don't want it to define who I am. And for the first year, it definitely defined, when I got after the diagnosis, it defined who I was. I would tell people I can't do this, or I have a hard time doing this because I have ADHD. Oh, it's my ADHD. I talk too fast because of my ADHD. I get angry pretty fast because of my ADHD. I what else? I talk a
Right.
lot because of my
But
ADHD.
I get it. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not, it might be but it's not an excuse. Yes,
Yes.
that's true.
Yeah.
But
And yeah, and but that's the crazy part, right? My parents, and that's how this came from for me. A lot of how my parents helped raise me and my brother, where I have ADHD, but it didn't become like a deep issue in my life or something I recognized until I had kids. Like before I recognized it, and I have ADHD, like I have combined hyperactive and attention deficit. So I don't like I struggle with both if I don't have medication. And being in the military, being a leader where attention to detail is essential, I have to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's and doing what I need to do and creating a regimen for myself to make sure that I can operate on medication and definitely off medication. And so it's definitely harder. And like you said, you mentioned for your son, right? Like I I have to there were people in my life, in my career, my mentor in particular, who's willing to take the extra time to help me and mold me into the man and person, the leader I am today, even though he recognized and knew, hey man, there's a lot of other soldiers I could just try to give my insight to, but this guy, he wants it, he's hungry for it. He has ADHD, sure, and he probably does, maybe he doesn't know, but that doesn't matter. I need to formulate my teaching style to to best way for him to learn. But I also can't just force feed him everything. I need him to learn as well. So he made it hard for me, right? When I was
Mm.
learning how to do new things, when I asked him a question, he didn't answer me. He would literally, I said, "Hey, sir, I'm trying to figure out this. Do you know the answer?" He would literally look up from his computer, and there he had this binder. My phone's going to be the binder, if you will. This binder, if it had all of our regulations or SOPs or whatever, he would hand it to me, not say a single word. And I knew that what that meant, walk away, read this, come back, and I have to tell him the answer. I need to tell him the answer, and I need to show him how and where I got the answer from. And so he taught me that. But when he taught me that, what I learned from that was how I actually read regulations, how to actually read regulations and be able to say, okay, this regulation says this, but it references this, and then it references over here. It taught me how to be attention. He taught me how to attention to detail, not just looking at something and be like, yeah, that's good. Yeah, it is what it is. But it was hard when I was going through it, but I learned it was something that someone was willing to take the time. And a lot of these soldiers, for me in particular, that's what willing to do. I'm willing to take the time. I'm willing to be at home, be at work until 6, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock is my max, but I'm willing to be there to help you, to learn, to get better if you're willing to put in the work and the effort to do so yourself.
So I want to go back to something you said earlier about how the military is not good at teaching you to manage people. And it's interesting because the military is so good, like you were saying, about making you learn certain things through repetition. So when you get into that situation, it's just it's an automatic reaction. And
Yeah.
I actually think leadership is the same. If you apply that, being a leader, when it really matters, is when it's hard. It's when you're stressed and everyone's tired and you are not at your best moment to be. That's when you have these lapses in leadership. So really, if we were to go the training that I think is required, and I came up with this with another guy from the military, would be just full on like how you guys do your drills, like creating these environments where you've got some boss yelling at you and whatever it is, and then you're trying to respond, and actually practicing how to manage your emotional reaction, how to verbalize what you need to verbalize, but really teaching those skills in a kind of a military, like in a repetitious, with a lot of repetition in a stressful environment.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like, so I just went through this course and it's called MRT, Master Resilience Training. It's the name what is in the name, to teaches you to be resilient and or how to be resilient. And it's not something that the Army came up with. It was pulled from actual studies from Penn State. Is it Penn State? Yeah. University of Penn, not Penn State, University of Penn, or Pennsylvania, whatever, the Tiger Blue, whatever they are, right? That college, right? That big college. But
Yeah.
this resilience thing was built by actual trained professors and scholars who put this thing together, and then they sent it out and the Army took it on, and they applied it first at West Point for their sports in their sports programs to teach these athletes how to be resilient when they're through injuries and through hard times, and mentally and physically, whatever the case might be. And that's what it was geared around originally when they set it up. But the Army, one of the good things that they say, hey, we can branch this out to the whole force, how to
Mm.
teach them how to be resilient, especially coming back from military conflict or whatever the case might be. And resilience is not the only thing they need. Other things could be helpful, but resilience is the first step. And they transformed this thing into 14 skills. And I just got done to this 10-day course learning with these 14 skills, how to apply these 14 skills, how to do into real world situations and what they are, how to utilize proper utilization of them, the verbiage and all that case. And it was one of it. I've been in the Army going on 11 years. And at 11 years, this is the first time that I went to this course. And this is the first time I actually understood, like, oh, we have these things we can teach people on how to be resilient. And when you teach someone how to be resilient, to understand what resilience actually looks like,
Mm.
it's amazing how you can apply it to leadership, because a lot of that course, what it was geared around was, it was like, yeah, I got it, right? There are soldiers who are problematic and whatever the case might be. But also, what are you doing? So one of these things, they call them icebreakers. And they're basically what it is, your core values and your core beliefs. And we have these innate core values and core beliefs that determine how we handle certain situations, right? So some of them are subconsciously, and some of them we're very aware of, right? But those ones that we're not aware of, we react and respond in a negative way to someone telling us some bad news or whatever news, not knowing that we've just felt like this person or this individual violated a core value or core belief of ours. And so now we created a situation that didn't need to even be created. And when this person was coming to us because they had a problem, they needed our help, and they felt
Mm.
comfortable and confident coming to us to begin with. But our core value and core beliefs, we said, oh, hey, I have this belief or this value, and this person just clearly violated it. And you know what? Nah, they're a piece of garbage.
Mhm.
When all actuality, hey, everyone's different. And if you would just respond, if you could have changed that, recognize that, and say, okay, I believe this thing. They don't do that. That's fine. Whatever. It is what it is. That being said, how can I help this individual? How can I get this person back on track so we can be where we need to be? And that's one of those things that they taught me. And that's one of my issues. And one of the things that I was able to recognize was, oh, I have all these core values and core beliefs and how I think soldiers, men, women should act. And so when some individuals would do something that would go against that, subconsciously I would put these labels on these individuals. Nope, you suck as a soldier, when in reality I was creating problems that didn't exist
Mm.
and that didn't need to be a thing. And so again, I fully recognize and I fully take accountability for my failures, because I think we can learn so much within our failures. And it's being able to realize I may have failed today, but I could always have tomorrow. And this goes all the way back to full circle for me. We're mediocre dads. Is being mediocre is a choice. You choose to be mediocre. On Monday, I may have chosen to be mediocre, but Tuesday, I refuse. I have to do better than I did yesterday. That might mean, instead, I played with my kids for 5 minutes yesterday, I'm playing with them for 10. I'm playing with them for 15 the next. But I always tell people, being mediocre is a choice. It is a choice that you make. And we always have choices.
Mm. Amen. I think that's when you feel like you don't have a choice, that's when you like when people say, oh, it's because I've got ADHD.
Yeah.
Then it completely disempowers you. Whereas you feel like I'm making this choice. I'm making this choice to go to the office today to work with this horrible leader, but I'm choosing to do it. Like it's much more empowering to realize that every day you're the one making the choices. There's only a few things that you're not in control of. There's a lot of stuff that you're not in control of. Basically, the only thing you're in control of is the choices that you make.
Yeah. It's realizing that you are in more control of yourself than you realize. Right. So I give this a perfect example. At least in my mind, it's a perfect example. I could have not shown up to that office. The next day I could have said, you know what? I'm making the choice not to show up because I just refuse to work with that individual. However, with that choice though, there would have been consequences. And those consequences that would have meant getting in trouble, such as an Article 15, which in the Army terminology or civilian terminology more or less means it's a severe write up, and if it could follow you for the rest of your Army career, and it could impact what you would like to do in the future as far as promotions and becoming that leader that you want to be. So there's consequences such as that, consequences of being marked AWOL, not being paid. There are several lists of consequences things that could have happened if I said, I'm just not going to show up because I refuse to work with that individual. And don't get me wrong, I had a choice to do that, but I chose to show up. I chose to show up there. And so on top of that choice, though, what I also chose to do was minimize my interactions with that individual as humanly possible. And so if he was speaking to me, I was attentive, I was listening. Yes, Sergeant, no, Sergeant, doing what I needed to do. Make sure I didn't take down notes, whatever the case might be. But when he wasn't speaking to me, it was not my turn to speak. It was not my turn to speak up and put a target on my back, point a target on my back. I made the choice every day to show up, do my job to the best of my ability, whether he thought that of me or not. I made the choice of also saying, hey, every day when I go to lunch, I need to go sit there. I need, whether it's go sitting in my car, or whether it goes sitting in my house or my room, wherever it was, I'm going to take a breather, take 10 minutes to decompress to prepare me to go back into the office and finish the rest of the day strong. I
Mhm.
made those choices. I made those, but I had choices, right?
Yeah.
I could have just sat there and said, F this, I'm done. He's a piece of crap. Let me punch in the mouth and just be done with it, right? To show him I'm a real man. I'm a man, right? But what good would that have done for me? What good would have that done for my family? So we all have choice. We have more choices than we think we do. It's just being able to realize that if you do make certain choices, there are consequences, and you have to be able to live with those consequences based off of the choices.
Thank you so much, Q. It has been fabulous to chit chat, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to be on. I appreciate it.